The wrong number that changed everything. The morning fog rolled softly through Maple Street, wrapping around the small houses like a gentle blanket. Sarah Mitchell stood at her kitchen window, cradling her coffee cup with both hands. The warm ceramic felt comforting against her palms as she watched the mist dance around Mrs. Chun's rose garden next door. Behind her, she could hear the familiar sounds of morning. Emma, her 4-year-old daughter, was humming a cheerful tune from her bedroom. Tommy, just 6 years old, would be next to wake up, probably dragging his favorite stuffed elephant down the hallway. These sounds filled their little house with life and love, even when everything else felt uncertain. Sarah had bought this house 3 years ago, after her divorce was final. It was smaller than their old home, but it was theirs. She had worked double shifts at the downtown diner to save for the down payment. Every month since then had been a careful dance of making ends meet, but they were managing. They were safe. They were together. The kitchen walls were painted sunshine yellow, Emma's choice because it reminded her of happiness. Both children had helped with the painting, leaving tiny handprints near the baseboards that Sarah would never paint over. They were proof of the joy they had built in this little space. As the fog began to lift, Sarah checked the time on her phone. 30 minutes before the morning routine began. Breakfast, getting dressed, finding backpacks and lunchboxes. The familiar rhythm of a single mother managing everything alone, but doing it with love and determination. She opened her laptop on the small kitchen table and looked at her monthly budget. The numbers told a story she knew by heart. Rent, utilities, groceries, childcare, car payment, each expense carefully planned and calculated. She had become an expert at stretching every dollar, finding deals, making sacrifices that her children never had to notice. But this month was different. This month brought an unexpected problem. 2 weeks ago, her car had broken down. Joe, the kind mechanic at the local shop, had delivered the news gently. The transmission needed repair. $800. He offered to let her pay in installments, but even that felt overwhelming when she looked at her tight budget. Without the car, Sarah had been taking the bus to work, leaving earlier and arriving home later each day. Mrs. Chen had been watching Emma and Tommy after school, refusing any payment. Neighbors help neighbors, the elderly woman would say with a warm smile. Sarah had saved $300. Her sister might lend her $200 more, though asking felt difficult. That still left $300 short, and payday was a week away. She couldn't afford to lose her job at the diner, not when Emma needed new winter boots and Tommy was growing out of his clothes so quickly. The sound of small feet on the stairs interrupted her worried thoughts. Emma appeared in the doorway, blonde hair sticking up at impossible angles, clutching her favorite stuffed fox. "Morning, Mommy," Emma said, climbing onto Sarah's lap for their daily cuddle. "Good morning, sunshine," Sarah replied, smoothing her daughter's hair. "Did you sleep well?" "I dreamed I could fly," Emma said softly. "I was way up high, and I could see our whole house. It looked so tiny and perfect." These moments of pure childhood wonder reminded Sarah why she fought so hard to keep their world stable and loving. Emma's imagination was full of magic. Tommy's artwork covered their refrigerator, each drawing a masterpiece in his young eyes. Soon, Tommy joined them, his dark hair already neatly combed. He was particular about his appearance, a trait Sarah found both amusing and endearing in a 6-year-old. "Can we read my dinosaur book after breakfast?" he asked, showing Sarah a library book about prehistoric creatures. "Of course we can," she promised, kissing the top of his head. As Sarah prepared pancakes for breakfast, watching her children laugh and chat together, she felt the familiar mix of contentment and worry that colored her days. They were happy children, despite the challenges. That's what mattered most. That afternoon, during her break at the diner, Sarah sat in her borrowed car and made a difficult decision. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to her father's contact. They hadn't spoken in months, not since their uncomfortable conversation about money last Christmas. He disapproved of her independent life, thinking she should have tried harder to save her marriage. But desperate times called for swallowing pride. Sarah typed carefully, "Dad, I hope you're well. I'm facing an unexpected car repair that I can't quite manage alone. I know things have been strained between us, but I could really use help. It's $300 I need. The kids are doing great, and I promise to pay you back. I wouldn't ask if I had another choice." She read the message 3 times, hating how vulnerable it sounded. But Emma needed those boots, and Tommy was asking about soccer signups, and they all needed the car to work. Sarah pressed send and immediately felt her stomach drop. Looking at her phone screen, she realized with horror that the message had gone to the wrong contact. Instead of David Mitchell, her father, it had been sent to David Montgomery. David Montgomery. She barely knew him. He was a successful businessman who had donated money for new playground equipment at the children's school. She had his number from when she helped organize the thank you committee, but they had never actually spoken directly. And now she had sent him a deeply personal, desperate message asking for money. Mortified, Sarah quickly typed, "I'm so sorry. That message was meant for someone else. Please disregard." extremely embarrassed, but before she could send it, her phone buzzed with a response from David Montgomery. "Hello, Sarah. I remember you from the school event. I'm sorry to hear about your situation. I'd like to help with the car repair if you'll let me. No need for repayment. Sometimes we all need a helping hand." Sarah read the message 5 times, certain she was misunderstanding. David Montgomery, practically a stranger, was offering to help with no strings attached. It made no sense. She typed back, "That's incredibly kind, but I couldn't possibly accept. It was my mistake sending you that message." His response came quickly. "I understand your hesitation, but I genuinely want to help. I'll be in your neighborhood around 6 this evening. Would it be all right if I stopped by to discuss this? I promise this is a sincere offer." After a long internal debate, Sarah replied, "Okay, I'll be home with my children at 6. We live at 247 Maple Street." The rest of her workday passed in a blur of disbelief and nervous anticipation. At exactly 6 o'clock, there was a gentle knock at Sarah's front door. She opened it to find David Montgomery standing on her porch. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. Despite his expensive coat, there was something genuinely approachable about him. "Hello, Sarah. Thank you for agreeing to see me." Emma and Tommy appeared beside their mother, curious about the visitor. David crouched down to their eye level. "You must be Emma and Tommy. I helped get those new swings at your school. They go really high," Tommy said excitedly. "Emma goes higher than me, but I don't mind," he added generously. David smiled. "That's very thoughtful of you." As they settled in the living room with coffee, David explained himself with quiet sincerity. "I lost my parents when I was 12, he said gently. "My grandmother raised me, but we struggled financially. Kind strangers helped us in small but important ways, a neighbor bringing groceries, a teacher providing school supplies, a mechanic fixing our car for free." Emma listened with wide eyes, while Tommy pretended to color but was clearly paying attention. "Those acts of kindness shaped who I became," David continued. "I've been very fortunate in business, but I realized I'd been missing the personal connection that made those early experiences so meaningful. Your accidental message reminded me what really matters." He looked at Sarah directly. "I don't want anything in return. This isn't charity's community. It's what people should do for each other." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll let me help," David replied simply. As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself relaxing. In David's presence, he answered Emma's questions about dragons with the same seriousness he gave Tommy's inquiries about dinosaurs. When he prepared to leave, he handed Sarah a check for the car repair. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. "Thank you," David replied, "for reminding me what really matters." Standing in her doorway after he left, Sarah watched his car disappear into the gathering fog. Emma and Tommy pressed against her sides, looking out into the misty evening. "I like him, Mommy," Emma said simply. "Me too," Tommy agreed. Sarah pulled her children closer, feeling something she hadn't experienced in a long time, the warmth of unexpected kindness and the possibility that sometimes wrong numbers lead to exactly the right place. The fog continued to roll down Maple Street, but inside their little yellow kitchen, everything felt brighter than it had in months.